Good morning. It's another nice day. First of all, I want to thank everybody for being so nice and doing all those subscribes and likes. It makes making these videos more fun and exciting. Second, I wanted to apologize for not getting another video out last Sunday, but the one I'm working on, there's several hours and hours of editing that needs to be done, and I just didn't get it done. So hopefully this Sunday or Monday morning I'll get it out. Okay, so what this one is about is I have an interview with one of my good friends, and she's agreed to share with us some of her stories and also reveal a map that has been in her family probably for over a century. This map was traced off of one of the buckskin hides that Caleb Rhoades created on his deathbed in 1905, and it's very, very cool story. So, and I think you'll like some of the experiences that she's had. So let's get to it.
The following is an excerpt from Faded Footprints. This map, drawn by Caleb Rhoades while upon his deathbed in late May or early June of 1905, shows a mine near Log Hollow in Farm Creek Canyon, not far from Hanna, Utah, probably on mixed blood land known as the Red Rock Corporation. This map, and copies thereof, were later obtained by Ernest Horsley of Price, Utah, and by the Stevenson family, then of Mountain Home, Utah. The Horsley map was later turned over to John J. Rhoades by John Peckett Horsley, John Rhoades' father-in-law. It was among the 2 Spanish maps obtained from my aunt, Olive Ann Rhoades Westenskow, in 1968. The Stevenson copy of the map ended up in the possession of Mr. Hap Stevenson, who later died of a heart attack while searching for the mine. Rumor has it that the Stevenson map had been placed under his headstone, reportedly due to Hap's favorite comment, "If anyone gets this map, it'll be over my dead body." However, I once asked Leland Stevenson, Hap's brother, about the Stevenson copy of the map, and Leland replied, "I honestly don't know what happened to Hap's map, but I do know that it wasn't placed under his headstone, as some have said. He used to carry it inside the sweatband of his hat, but I don't know of anyone who's seen it since the time of his death. His wife hasn't seen it either."
There you
go. Okay, so my great-grandpa George Geddes Lindsay was married to an Indian lady, to a Ute Indian woman. And she's buried out in Heber. Actually, they're both buried in Heber now. But she was, after we started putting stuff together, and my grandpa always told us that she was Happy Jack's sister. And so there's kind of a you know
really
who Happy Jack
Yeah,
is.
it's a good connection there.
Yeah. So, and then, you know, of course, as children, they were adopted into different families. She went to a Murdoch family, and I can't remember with Happy Jack. I'd have to read through it. I knew all this really straight at one time, but it's been a long time since I made all the connections, and I wrote it all down in some books. But anyway, so there was that kind of connection. And then as far as exactly where that map came from, is I'm not sure if it was... It sticks out in my mind that Caleb Rhoades' wife wrote it down and gave it to someone in the family. But I don't know if that's just my mind remembering something that I read somewhere. But I do know that that map, from the time I was old enough to remember, you know, 3-4 years old, was folded up, and it was in a little drawer hanging on the wall of my grandpa's gun rack. The gun rack had a couple little storage drawers in the bottom of it, and it was folded up, and it was on a napkin in that gun rack.
Right.
I remember taking it out and looking at it, and that's what my dad has still, is that napkin.
That napkin.
And he's made copies of it because the napkin's, you know, getting old and
Brittle,
deteriorating, and yeah, but you could still see it clearly. He got some good copies, you know, some really good copies of it. And then the other connection is actually through the other side of the family. So there's the Lindsay side, which was, you know, connected with Happy Jack. And then on my mother's mom's side of the family, she was a Miles. And there's a book that Carrie Bourne wrote, and a lot of his stuff, you know, I don't know that I really believe it, but some of the historical stuff that he has is correct, and some timelines and his, you know, a lot of historical stuff. So reading in his books, there was a mine claim called El Dorado, and when I was reading his book, it said that the El Dorado mine claim was with, I can't remember the names now. Matt Warner was one of them, but Matt Warner went by a different name. I can't remember the name.
Before he became sheriff and all that.
Yeah. And then it said some other name, and then it said DC Miles and L something Miles, and it's all, but these people are unknown. We don't know who they are. I know who they are. So the L Miles is my grandpa Lucius Miles, and DC is Don Carlos Miles, which is my grandpa's brother.
Wow.
And so they had a mine claim with Matt Warner. I'll have to show you in the book that tells you what the mine claim is. Sure. So there's kind of some family connection on both grandparents.
Makes it exciting.
Yeah. So as far as where it all kind of ties in, you know, I'd have to pick my mom and dad's brains a little bit while they still remember. And my dad had a friend too up here, and I can't remember his name either. I'll have to ask him. Like I said, it's all stuff when you're a kid that you don't pay attention to, so you don't retain it. We called him Dr. Jones because it was right during the time that Indiana Jones came out and we were kids. And he would come to our house here in Mountain Home. He'd be in Rock Creek all summer or up by Moon Lake all summer long. And this guy would come down to our house. And part of it is he wore like a hat that reminded us of Indiana Jones. So
the floppy thing.
Yep, so when we seen him, that's what we called him, was Dr. Jones. Anyway, he showed, and he would come and talk to my dad. He was always trying to get that map.
Oh.
Always trying to talk my dad into showing him that map.
I can see that.
And my dad never would.
Oh,
but
great.
this guy showed us, and I seen him as well showed my dad silver bars
That he found
with
here.
with Spanish, with Spanish
Right,
writing on them.
Right.
But he said he found up Rock Creek, and he also showed my dad. My dad went with him a couple times, and this might be common knowledge. I don't know. I just remember them talking about it. I never saw it. That there are like foundations and footings up Rock Creek of old like monasteries and stuff that he showed my dad, and whether that's what they are or not, I don't know. But he said that they were. And my dad really liked talking to this guy. He thought he was interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know how much he believed everything that he was saying, but he thought he was fun to talk to and kind of share a little bit of knowledge back and forth. But my dad never actively looked for anything. He was too busy. He worked all the time.
Right.
But, knew a lot of stories and kind of had some fun connections.
So the napkin map that you have
Mm-hmm.
has different things on it to show you that makes you believe that it's in the Rock Creek area.
Yeah. Just, I don't know, and with my limited knowledge of reading maps and everything else, looking at it and knowing the drainages that are up here, that's what it reminds me of, is Rock Creek. But I'm sure that somebody else that looks at a lot of maps and is familiar with all the ones that are out there could probably know exactly what it
familiar
is.
with this area, you're probably spot on. So.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of, I don't know. I looked at it too, and I thought, well, maybe Moon Lake area, but I thought it matched closer to like Rock Creek drainages.
That's a pretty old map. It's too bad we don't know
Where
located
exactly?
it. Yeah, who wrote it? Not where exactly, but actually created the napkin. Right?
Oh yeah, I'll pick my dad's brain a little bit and see if he remembers. Sometimes he's in the mood to talk about it, and sometimes he isn't. Doesn't that sound familiar? There's actually right over here, from behind your camper, you can look this direction. What are we? I get mixed up from being in the city to the west.
Yeah.
And there's some cedar ridges over here on the other side of them, and you can't go there anymore. It's private property. We used to go all the time when we were kids, until it looks like, when I look on my maps now, that maybe it's some sort of a corporation or something bought it. But we called it the Brinks, and it's right on the edge of the Cedar Hills. It drops off to these sheer cliffs, and down on the bottom is the river that comes out of Rock Creek. So it's that whole drainage that goes down into Duchesne. Anyway, those big cliffs, in fact, we used to have church parties. We would ride horses into there and have ward parties over there too.
Wow.
But we called it the Brinks, and there's Spanish writing all over those cliffs. Wow. All over them. So, but you can't go there anymore.
Because it's private.
And yeah, it's not even Indian, it's private property. And they have it all fenced off and gated, and you can't go into it anymore. I'll show you on my Onyx where it is. About that area. Okay, let me show you here. So, geez, we're right here where the blue dot is.
Yep. Okay.
And then right here, it just disappeared, where it says Lynn Taylor. His wife is Alice. She's my cousin. You see this road going into here. Maybe it's that access that I was thinking got bought out. That's a Christensen that lives down in here. Jessup Real Estate. Anyway, so it's that area, those cliffs.
Yeah.
There's Spanish writing all along those cliffs.
That's neat.
Mm-hmm. That, of course, again, when we were kids, we just took that for granted. You see this old thing right there?
Yeah.
It's a runway.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Air Force used to use it. For what? I have no idea. But can you see how straight it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad used to take us over there. That is a runway.
That's interesting.
Isn't that weird?
That's cool.
Like, why the heck would there be a landing strip? We used to have access right here. This is the road that goes up to Moon Lake.
Uh-huh.
You can see the old road that you could drive over.
But that's on tribal land now.
Yep, and the tribe my dad tried to get just easement through that, so we didn't have to drive through a bunch of other people's property to
Right.
get to our property for years, and they just were stonewalled there. No, you can't access it. And then they took a whole bunch of cedar and brush and blocked that all off,
geez.
covered up the road so that we can't go in there anymore. But we used to own all of this, and there's a natural spring on this pond right here. So we think that some of the natives used to probably winter or even summer in the area. So down in here, you have a big grassy meadow, and right along this edge of this cedar ridge, and you can still see him if you look really close. He's had cows in here that have kind of messed him up. There used to be teepee rings.
Oh, nice. And that's right, your property's right there.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yep.
so that line, that vertical line, is the edge of your property.
Yeah. So, right.
Yeah.
That green.
Oh, nice.
Yep, so
It's too bad that the tribe didn't let you go in that way. It seemed to be much easier than trying to...
Then you're not, trying to get access through multiple people's land, and nobody wants to give anybody access, even if it's, a legality thing or not. People don't care. They don't want to give you access to get into your own property. And like I said, these guys are nice. Wayne is nice. Corey Farnsworth is great. They'll let us walk in, but it's still having to
open up the gate,
talk to somebody, and hey, we're coming.
I just can't do it.
Yeah, it's just kind of a pain in the neck. It would be nice to be able to just, hey, let's go drive up to the property. Yeah. Let me grab that book really quick. I'll just show you a couple things.
That's the one that Ross wrote, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reading this too, his book, there's a lot of it that is so...
Do you mind if I film this one? Okay.
If you can get over how dumb I look.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
So, for me, it was really apparent reading this book. Okay, so I've just made note here. It's just talking about Sid C, Matt Warner. I think Sid C, was that Caleb Rhoades' wife?
Yes.
Okay, so while associated with Dowd and Sharp, Sid C met Edward Hartzell, the manager of Big Spring Ranch, whom she married in 1911. In July of 1912, Edward Hartzell, his son James, Matt Warner, the Warrens, and others filed on the El Dorado and Klondike claims in the Rock Creek Granddaddy Lake region. So the others are my grandparents, and then I marked... Oh, there
the
it is.
Miles? Mm-hmm.
Right here. So then in 1912, another group descended on the Rock Creek Granddaddy Lake region and filed several groups of claims. On 14th July 1912, Edward Hartzell, D.C. Miles, which is Don Carlos Miles, which is a great uncle, and then L.M. Miles, which is Lucius, I can't remember his middle name, but that's my great-grandfather, Lucius Miles, James Hartzell, W.E. Cox Parley, and Frank Warren. J.C. Ferguson and Mr. Summers filed on a group of claims called the El Dorado on 17th of July. They filed on a second group of claims they called Klondike 1 and 2. And then I thought it was funny over here because he was talking about the people that had filed that claim together and who they are.
Right.
And then it says the history of D.C. and L.M. Miles, J.C. Ferguson and Mr. Summers is vague. In fact, he didn't. But as soon as I read that, I was like,
there's nothing vague about it.
I know who D.C. and L.M. Miles are. I know where they're buried. In fact, Don Carlos and Lucius are both buried in Peoa.
Okay.
Yeah, they're both in that cemetery. Don Carlos and Lucius Miles are both over there. So anyway, I thought that was kind of cool.
Neat.
Yeah, when I was reading that, I was just like, oh my gosh. Oh, and it has in here a lot of it too, a lot of stuff about Happy Jack and his connection to Matt Warner. So it would kind of, to me, make sense that if my my other grandpa, which was George Geddes Lindsay, was married to Happy Jack's sister, and Happy Jack was, good friends with Matt Warner.
Right.
My other grandparents had a mine with him, and then we have this map in the family.
So maybe that's it.
That's what I've wondered, if
Yeah.
that is maybe that map. I
Right.
don't know.
Yeah.
Now the family has, like I said, has been a little guarded about the map. I know my dad, when he made a copy of it for me, was like, hey, this is like a family map. This has been in the family. Your grandpa didn't show this to people. This was, But then again, I'm like, well, what? Is anybody, like, what are you going to do with it?
Right.
Is it going to go in a coffin and just, it's buried with us? Like, there's that part of me that's like, well, geez, get it out there and maybe someone will find it. And then there's part of me, too, that, like, wants to respect
The wishes of your father.
yeah, like family
Yeah.
wishes. And for whatever reason, they thought it was special. And,
Well-
I don't know. I think a lot of it came from that era of you didn't share stuff like that.
Which is still very prevalent now.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if they're close, they don't, you spend all these years working on this thing and you're right there, and then for someone to stand on your shoulders and
Yeah.
nab it away, it's like, it could be really disheartening.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So when you're going to Moon Lake,
Uh-huh.
when you're still down on the Indian,
Uh-huh.
and it's down on the flat, like down in the sagebrush before you even get to Twin Pots. And it's shortly after you come up out of Mountain Home, and then you drop down through some windy roads.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get down on that flat, there's a dirt road that turns right.
Right.
So that road goes over to Yellowstone.
That's still reservation. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. So you follow that, and that takes you up to the diversion dam, and the Moon Lake Electric, the hydro station that's up there too. Anyway, so when you're going up there, right as you cross the cattle guard that separates forest and tribal, on the left-hand side is they call them the yellow ledges, and it's just yellow, like sandstone, and I think it's, I'm trying to think of the mineral that's over there. I haven't had enough coffee this morning. I can't remember anything. Lime. I think there's lime over there. Anyway, yellow ledges. When I was a kid, there was 2 or 3 different occasions that my grandpa took us. We would stop right there.
At the cattle guard.
Yep, at the cattle guard and park just on the forest side. And people at that age, that were my grandpa's age, were a little more blurred on tribal and forest lands. Because, my grandpa grew up, he homesteaded here with his family. He grew up going anywhere he wanted.
Right.
And so boundaries, it was just different for him.
Right.
They didn't have those really clear lines like we do now. Anyway, I remember my grandpa would walk right to it. I can remember looking down the mine shaft, and you could see timbers. You could see a few collapsed timbers.
It started as a vertical mine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And
How'd they keep it covered?
yeah, there was just a rock.
Just a rock
and
they
he
slid
would
off?
slide the rock off. And he was old at that time. He was 80, and it wasn't like a massive rock, but
Right.
he would slide it off and move a little dirt around, and there it was. And it terrified my mom, because she's like, "There's mine shafts and stuff here. I don't want my kids falling in or
Right.
whatever." And we thought it was great. We're like, "Get a rope, and a
go.
flashlight. Let's go. Let's go see what's down there." And then probably 5-10 years after that, my grandpa had passed. There was a big, like, flash flood up there, and you can't find it. I have looked and looked and looked, and I know it's not even far. We would park on the forest side.
Of the cattle guard, right?
Yeah,
Outside the
a
cattle
very short walk.
Within a mile?
Oh, within not even that. You know, this is an old man within probably,
200 yards.
yeah, 200 yards. Less than a,
And
you
it's
know.
on the Forest Service side?
No.
It's on the...
It is on tribal. Yeah, now.
Okay.
Now. Then they didn't have the big fence and stuff there.
Oh.
They do now. And when I look at it now, you know, as a kid I didn't care.
Right.
When I look at it now, I'm like, that was definitely on tribal. Definitely. So we would, anyway, walk right to it and look down that. And since that big washout, I mean, it was massive. That it just washed that whole thing out. You know, surely it's still there. I'm sure with some kind of, I don't know, imaging and all the stuff that they have. But
Did you ever get to go down in
No.
that line?
no, we
Is
never
it too
did.
far down for you when you as a kid? You couldn't make it.
We just never. My mom was always there, and my,
Yeah.
you know, my grandpa and my mom was like,
I was just
no
wondering
way.
if you actually could see, you know, what was in it, what they're mining, and
No, I remember asking my mom and grandpa all the time, like, well, what were they mining? What were they getting out of there? Like, what were they looking for? And they were all, it was never, was it gold or silver? They always said something else, but I don't know what. I mean, what else would there be? What would you be mining out of there? I don't know.
There are some mines right there on the Indian side that have some good gold veins in them, and so it could be that same, either the same mine I'm thinking of, or a one that's connected to that one.
I'm sure. I mean, why else? It's not like they were mining for if some other kind of mineral or something that was up there. I'm like, it had to have been something, and even if they didn't admit it, there had to have been something there that I think that they were looking for. I think they were looking for gold.